foreplay.
GoldenEye wasn't just a comeback, it was Bond's full-on resurrection. The film exploded onto screens with sharp suits, high-speed action, and that classic 007 swagger. But behind the scenes, things were a mess. The new Bond almost lost his shot before cameras even started rolling. The villain's character had to be completely rewritten after a major star suddenly quit. And one scene got so wild that the MPAA rejected it not once, but 11 times. Think you know everything about GoldenEye? Wait until you hit number 9. It'll surprise you. Now let's dive into 20 weird facts about this iconic film you didn't know. Number 20. The 6-year gap. Legal battles over the television rights to the first 16 Bond films caused a major delay for the production of GoldenEye, pushing its release back by 6 years. This was a challenging period for the franchise, as the Cold War had ended and the Soviet Union had collapsed. With the world changing so dramatically, many people started to question whether James Bond still had a place in the modern era. Despite these uncertainties, the filmmakers continued to work behind the scenes to develop a new Bond film that could reconnect with audiences. Originally, the plan was to make a movie titled The Property of a Lady, based on an Ian Fleming short story published in 1966. Fleming, who created James Bond, had died just 2 years after that. The project was set to debut in 1991, with Timothy Dalton reprising the role of Bond. The story was ambitious, featuring dangerous nanotechnology and spanning locations across Scotland, Japan, and Hong Kong. However, legal disputes over the film rights repeatedly blocked production, forcing the project to evolve and transform over time. Eventually, what started as The Property of a Lady would morph into the GoldenEye we know today. As years went on, several screenwriters and directors joined and left the project, contributing to the evolving vision for the film. During this period, Dalton expressed interest in returning for a third and likely final Bond film. However, producer Albert R. Cubby Broccoli was hesitant. He didn't want Dalton to return for just one movie after such a long break, fearing it wouldn't do justice to the character or the series. Understanding this and not wanting to be tied down indefinitely, Dalton officially stepped away from the role on April 11, 1994. Then, in June of that same year, the producers made a big announcement. Pierce Brosnan was cast as the new James Bond. Brosnan had a deep connection to the character. During filming, he kept a copy of Ian Fleming's Goldfinger, originally published in 1959. That novel, along with the 1964 film adaptation, had introduced him to Bond when he was just 11 years old. His respect for the legacy and dedication to the role paid off, as GoldenEye became the most successful Bond film since Moonraker in 1979, breathing new life into the iconic series. Number 19. The writers of GoldenEye were inspired by Moonraker. Ian Fleming's novel Moonraker, published in 1955, delves into the chilling idea of hidden enemies lurking beneath familiar faces. The story revolves around Graf Hugo von der Drache, a Nazi war criminal who orchestrates a deadly explosion at a British Army field headquarters. Presumed dead in the blast, he cunningly fakes his own identity and resurfaces as Hugo Drax, posing as a wounded British soldier. This new persona allows him to infiltrate British society and gain their trust. While recovering, Drax uncovers a rich deposit of columbite, a rare metal highly prized for its exceptional strength and durability in rocket engines. He generously donates this valuable resource to the British government, which earns him a prestigious knighthood. Using the columbite, Drax builds the Moonraker, a heavily modified V-2 rocket that Britain believes will serve as a powerful defense against Soviet attacks. However, Drax harbors a sinister secret. Despite appearing loyal, he is secretly aligned with the Soviets and plots to use the Moonraker as a weapon of vengeance against London. His motive stems from his desire to avenge the fall of the Third Reich and punish Britain for what he perceives as acts of British aggression. Alongside his deadly plan to launch the rocket at London, Drax also manipulates the stock market, intending to profit from the financial chaos that would follow his attack. Similarly, the writers of GoldenEye created a villain, Alec Trevelyan, who shares eerie parallels with Drax. Trevelyan is a supposedly dead 00 agent with a tragic past. He is the son of two Lians Cossacks who took their own lives in shame after being betrayed. Like Drax, Trevelyan seeks revenge against Britain, but his weapon of choice is a Soviet-era space-based weapon rather than a rocket. His plan involves triggering a financial meltdown by hacking into the Bank of England's systems before unleashing catastrophic destruction. In a clever nod to Drax's disfigurement from his injuries and failed surgeries, Trevelyan is given distinct scars on his face, burns inflicted by an explosion set by none other than James Bond himself, adding a personal edge to their bitter rivalry. Number 18. Michelle Eldridge actually sang Irina's version of Tammy Wynette's Stand By Your Man. Minnie Driver, then a rising actress, singer, and songwriter, took on the role of Irina in GoldenEye. Irina is the loud, charmingly off-key mistress of ex-KGB agent and underworld boss Valentin Dmitrovich Zhukovsky, played by Robbie Coltrane. Before this film, Driver's work had mostly been in television, but her brief yet memorable role in GoldenEye helped launch her film career. Just 2 years after GoldenEye's release, Driver starred in Good Will Hunting in 1997, a role that earned her nominations for both an Academy Award and a Screen Actors Guild Award. Although Minnie Driver is a trained singer, her character Irina's hilariously off-pitch rendition of Tammy Wynette's Stand By Your Man was sung by Michelle Eldridge. The song, originally released in 1968, was included to add humor to the scene, and it succeeded. For her role in GoldenEye, Driver was paid $5,000, a modest fee compared to her later earnings. Despite her brief screen time, her portrayal of Irina left a lasting impression. It helped her gain recognition in Hollywood, marking an important stepping stone in her successful career. Number 17. Pierce Brosnan replaced his usual martini with water on set.
We pulled the files on anyone who might have had access or authority at 7i. Top name on the list's no friend of yours.
James Bond is famous for his signature vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. And while the character has always enjoyed his drinks on screen, the actors behind the scenes took a different approach. Over the years, Bond has cut back on smoking and heavy meals, but that iconic martini remains a staple of his suave persona. However, if the actors drank real alcohol during filming, they'd likely be slurring their lines and struggling to perform by the end of a long shoot. Judi Dench's portrayal of M brought a fresh twist to the franchise. Unlike the previous M, who preferred cognac, Judy's M always seemed to have a bottle of bourbon nearby. But in reality, Dench stayed away from alcohol on set, opting for apple juice instead. To maintain appearances, her glass had 2 fake ice cubes floating inside. Pierce Brosnan, who played Bond, was just as savvy. He never actually drank the classic martini. Instead, he sipped chilled water from those elegant cocktail glasses to stay focused during filming. Number 16. A crucial part of the script was rewritten entirely. During the filming of The Living Daylights, released in 1987, Walter Gotell, who played General Alexis Gogol, wasn't feeling well. This made it difficult for him to return to the role fully. As a result, much of his part was handed over to Welsh actor John Rhys-Davies, who played a new character named General Leonid Pushkin. In the film, Pushkin is initially manipulated by the villains, but soon sees through their lies. He then teams up with Timothy Dalton's James Bond to help save the day. Pushkin intended to make a return in License to Kill, to remind audiences that the Soviet presence was still relevant in Bond's world. Unfortunately, John Rhys-Davies was busy filming Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which came out in 1989, so he was unable to reprise the role. Later, when planning GoldenEye, the filmmakers considered bringing Pushkin back once again. However, by then, the Cold War had ended, and the political landscape had undergone a dramatic shift. The producers felt that featuring a former KGB chief in a high-ranking position within the new Russian government didn't fit the story or the message they wanted to send about the post-Cold War world. So they completely rewrote the role. General Pushkin was replaced by Minister of Defense Dmitry Mishkin, portrayed by French actor Cheikh Cario. Mishkin's character meets a tragic end when he is shot and killed by the treacherous General Arkady Grigorovich Aurumov, played by Gottfried John, adding a dark twist to the evolving political tension in GoldenEye. Number 15. Alec Trevelyan, first refused to be cast as the movie's villain. Alec Trevelyan's name comes from John Trevelyan, who was the secretary of the British Board of Film Classification from 1958 until 1971. Trevelyan was known for his strict views on film content, especially during the 1960s, when he often clashed with the James Bond franchise. He was concerned that films were becoming too violent and disliked Bond's sometimes ruthless nature, as well as the witty remarks Bond made after defeating his enemies. Originally, the filmmakers envisioned Trevelyan as an older character named Augustus Trevelyan, who would serve as James Bond's mentor. They had hoped to cast the distinguished Sir Anthony Hopkins in this role, but he declined. The producers then approached Alan Rickman, who also turned down the part, feeling he had played enough villainous roles. After these setbacks, the casting team shifted focus to younger actors. When Sean Bean auditioned, an actor who had previously tried out for Bond in The Living Daylights, the character of Trevelyan underwent a significant transformation. Instead of being an older mentor figure, Trevelyan was rewritten as Bond's friend, colleague, and contemporary, who would ultimately betray him. This change added a personal, emotional edge to the story. However, this shift created a challenge for Trevelyan's backstory. While Augustus Trevelyan could believably remember the shame his Leon's Cossack parents endured after being handed back to Soviet Russia and executed by Stalin, Alec's parents had escaped that fate. Instead, they tragically took their own lives after he was born, which added complexity to Alec's motivations and character. Number 14. The final fight between Bond and Trevelyan was inspired by Connery's 007 and Donald "Red" Grant. During the intense showdown between James Bond and Alec Trevelyan atop the Janus antenna in Cuba, director Martin Campbell drew inspiration from one of the most iconic fight scenes in Bond history, the fierce battle between Sean Connery's Bond and Robert Shaw's Donald "Red" Grant aboard the Orient Express in From Russia with Love from 1963. Pierce Brosnan and Sean Bean took on most of the brutal fight scenes themselves, striving for authenticity and grit to make the confrontation feel as real as possible. The only exception was the moment when Bond throws Trevelyan against a wall, which required a stunt double to ensure safety during the impact. The commitment of both actors brought a powerful energy to the fight, making it one of the most memorable showdowns in the Bond series. However, filming wasn't without challenges. Brosnan injured his hand while escaping through a hatchway on a retractable ladder, forcing the production team to adjust the schedule. To allow his hand to heal properly, they pushed forward and filmed the scenes set at the Severnaya Space Weapons Facility earlier than planned. Number 13. Eric Serra's musical composition for GoldenEye was disliked. French musician Eric Serra, known for his frequent collaborations with director Luc Besson, composed the musical score for GoldenEye after the franchise's regular composer, John Barry, was unavailable. Serra not only created the film's score but also wrote and sang The Experience of Love, a haunting track that plays during the end credits. Interestingly, this song was originally composed for Besson's earlier film Léon, The Professional, 1994. Serra's modern, synth-heavy approach to the score sparked mixed reactions among fans and critics alike. His synthesized version of the iconic James Bond theme, which opens the film's classic gun barrel sequence, was particularly divisive. Even before GoldenEye premiered, the producers grew concerned that Serra's compositions might stray too far from the traditional Bond sound. To balance this, they brought in British composers John Altman and David Arch to add orchestral arrangements that more closely resembled John Barry's legendary style. A prime example is the music for the thrilling tank chase through the streets of St. Petersburg, where Serra's score was completely replaced with Altman's powerful orchestral version. Despite these changes, Serra's original work remains a vital part of the GoldenEye soundtrack album, notably in the track titled A Pleasant Drive in St. Petersburg, offering a glimpse of his unique musical vision within the Bond universe. Number 12. The helicopter scene was shot aboard a stealth ship. For the Tiger helicopter demonstration scene in GoldenEye, the filmmakers were granted rare access to film aboard the real French Navy stealth ship Lafayette, thanks to the Navy's cooperation. The French government not only allowed the use of official Navy logos to promote the scene, but also loaned one of its Eurocopter Tiger helicopters, which was a cutting-edge military prototype at the time. The helicopter even performed a dramatic barrel roll as Zenia Onatop piloted it out of the marina. Although that stunt was ultimately cut from the final film, the thrilling idea later made its way into the pre-credit sequence of Spectre, 2015. Despite the cooperation with France, Pierce Brosnan, known for his strong environmental stance and support of Greenpeace, publicly opposed France's nuclear tests in the South Pacific. In protest, he boycotted the film's French premiere, which led to its cancellation. Number 11. Pierce Brosnan's son was his hand, double for some scenes. While Pierce Brosnan's hand was healing from an injury sustained during filming, he needed a hand double for several important scenes. He called on his adopted son, Christopher Brosnan, to step in and perform the precise handwork required. Christopher handled key moments like firing the laser piton gun during the thrilling pre-credits sequence, pulling the handbrake on Bond's iconic Aston Martin DB5, opening the car's armrest to reveal a chilled bottle of Bollinger champagne, and using the Omega Seamaster laser watch to cut through the floor of Alec Trevelyan's armored ICBM train. At the time, Christopher was working as the third assistant trainee on the film's second unit, gaining valuable experience behind the scenes. He is the son of actress Cassandra Harris and her first husband Dermot. Cassandra had appeared in For Your Eyes Only, 1981, as Countess Liesl von Schlaff alongside Sir Roger Moore. Sadly, she passed away about 10 years later, before Pierce Brosnan became James Bond. Though Christopher has since become a film director, his relationship with his adoptive father has unfortunately become estranged. Nevertheless, Christopher's contribution to GoldenEye remains a unique and important part of the film's production history. Number 10. The ICBM train scene was not shot in St. Petersburg. The thrilling sequence aboard Alec Trevelyan's menacing converted ICBM train racing through the Russian countryside is packed with tension and excitement. Although the railway appeared to be set on the outskirts of St. Petersburg, the scenes were filmed on the Nenny Valley Railway in Cambridgeshire, England. Interestingly, this same railway had been used 12 years earlier in Octopussy, 1983, to represent East and West German tracks. Nearby, the Mill Road Bridge at Castor was cleverly transformed into a tunnel for the film, complete with a large Soviet star, setting the stage for the moment when James Bond forces the speeding train to screech to a dramatic halt. The characters Natalia Simonova, Zenia Onatop, and General Uramov boarded the train at the British Sugar Factory in Woodston, Peterborough, a popular location that no longer exists today. The train itself was a British Rail Class 20 diesel-electric locomotive. At Leavesden Studios in Hertfordshire, the production team heavily modified it, attaching a large battering ram to the front to give it an intimidating presence. On set, the cast and crew affectionately nicknamed it the Darth Train, a nod to Star Wars' iconic Darth Vader. The carriages were British Rail Mark II coaches, also extensively altered to look far more threatening and militaristic. These coaches and the locomotive were transported to the filming location near Peterborough on flatbed trucks. The result was a terrifying train of death that looked just as deadly on screen as it felt on set, adding to the suspense and realism of the high-stakes chase. Number 9. A new studio was built just for GoldenEye. To James Bond fans, Leavesden Studios in Hertfordshire holds a special place in cinematic history as the birthplace of 007's revival. When Eon Productions began work on GoldenEye, they faced a major challenge. Their usual filming location, Pinewood Studios in Buckinghamshire, was fully booked shooting First Night, 1995, starring Sir Sean Connery. With no other European studio large enough to meet the massive soundstage demands of GoldenEye, the producers transformed an old Rolls-Royce engine factory and aerodrome into a brand new studio space. During filming, the cast and crew affectionately nicknamed the new studio Cubbywood, in honor of Albert R. Cubby Broccoli, the franchise's beloved longtime producer. GoldenEye was the last Bond film he lived to see, making the studio's nickname a heartfelt tribute. Unfortunately, Pinewood remained mostly unavailable for the next Bond installment, Tomorrow Never Dies, 1997, while George Lucas booked Leavesden to shoot Star Wars, Episode I, The Phantom Menace, 1999. As a result, the Bond production moved to Eon Studios in Frogmore, Hertfordshire, which became the home for Pierce Brosnan's second Bond adventure. Leavesden, meanwhile, continued to grow in prestige, hosting other major productions such as Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, 1999, and famously, the entire Harry Potter film series from 2001 to 2011. Today, the site is known as Warner Brothers Studios Leavesden. It welcomes visitors from around the world for the Warner Brothers Studio Tour London, offering fans a chance to walk through the sets where some of cinema's most iconic moments were created. Number 8. Director Martin Campbell made an appearance in one of the scenes. Producer Barbara Broccoli has often credited director Martin Campbell with bringing fresh energy and vision that played a crucial role in the successful reboot of the James Bond franchise with GoldenEye. Pierce Brosnan shared that admiration, calling Campbell a powerhouse whose direction helped shape a modern and exciting take on the iconic spy. Interestingly, Campbell also made a rare and playful director's cameo in the film. He appeared as the lead cyclist in the memorable chase sequence where Bond's sleek Aston Martin DB5 and the fierce Xenia Onatop's bright red Ferrari 355 speed past a group of cyclists riding together in a peloton. The reckless passing causes the cyclists to crash spectacularly, shouting and gesturing angrily at the daring drivers. Campbell's brief appearance adds a cheeky touch to the scene. This cameo also aligned perfectly with Campbell's lifestyle and beliefs. Born in New Zealand, Campbell is known for being health-conscious and outspoken about his dislike of smoking. He made it clear from the start that, unlike some earlier portrayals of James Bond, Pierce Brosnan's Bond would not succumb to the temptation of cigarettes or nicotine. This marked a subtle but important shift in the character's image, making Bond feel more contemporary and relatable without losing the classic, cool factor. Campbell's influence on GoldenEye was significant, blending traditional Bond elements with a fresh, modern sensibility, helping to revive the franchise for a new generation while respecting its iconic legacy. His hands-on approach, including his on-screen cameo and insistence on certain character traits, contributed greatly to the film's lasting appeal. Number 7. The product placement deal with BMW came late in the production. When Q, played by the legendary Desmond Llewellyn, introduces James Bond to the sleek BMW Z3 Roadster in his gadget-filled workshop, he hints at all the usual refinements. However, in the actual film, audiences only witness 2 of those features in action: the parachute braking system and the vehicle's all-points radar display. So why the limited showcase of Bond-style upgrades? The reason comes down to timing. The product placement deal between Eon Productions and BMW came quite late in GoldenEye's production schedule. As a result, BMW could only provide a prototype of the Z3, and there was a major catch. The prototype was not allowed to be scratched, dented, or put through any stunt work. That meant the Bond filmmakers couldn't use it in any of the explosive car chases or action-heavy sequences typical of a 007 film. Still, the car's appearance, though brief and restrained, turned out to be a massive marketing success. The Z3 was the first non-British car officially driven by Bond, and the association sent sales soaring. BMW even launched a limited 007 edition Z3, and it sold out the very day it was released. Even without high-speed stunts, the car had earned its place in Bond history. Number 6. GoldenEye is the name of Ian Fleming's estate. GoldenEye is Ian Fleming's estate overlooking Oricabessa Bay on Jamaica's northern shore. From 1952 to 1964, Fleming wrote all of his James Bond novels and short stories there. He named the estate after a British intelligence contingency plan he had created during the Second World War. The plan was drafted in case of an alliance between Francisco Franco's Spain and the Axis powers. Today, GoldenEye is a luxury hotel and resort, featuring tropical buildings, lush gardens, and private beaches. It remains a vibrant social hotspot, just as it was when Fleming lived there. Bono stayed at GoldenEye when he wrote the theme song for the film GoldenEye. He later developed the track with his U2 bandmate, The Edge, while staying in the south of France. Since Tina Turner lived nearby, they played the song on her piano, which inspired her to join the final recording. Though GoldenEye is considered a classic Bond theme, it did not chart in the United States. However, it reached number 7 in the United Kingdom. Number 5. There were doubts about casting a female M. In the movie, Dame Stella Rimington made history in 1992 when she became the first female Director General of MI5. 2 years earlier, in 1990, she had overseen the British Security Service's move to Thames House. In December 1991, she traveled to Moscow to foster improved diplomatic and intelligence relations with the Soviet KGB. That was a major gesture during the final days of the Cold War. Many have speculated that the decision to cast Dame Judi Dench as the new M in GoldenEye was inspired by Remington's groundbreaking role. However, the idea of a female M had been suggested much earlier by actress Lois Maxwell, who played Miss Moneypenny. When producer Albert R. Cubby Broccoli informed Maxwell that A View to a Kill, released in 1985, would be her final Bond film due to Roger Moore's departure, she proposed being promoted to the role of M. Unfortunately, the filmmakers rejected the suggestion, believing audiences would struggle to accept James Bond receiving orders from Moneypenny. Director Martin Campbell later championed the casting of a woman as M, seeing it as a perfect reflection of the evolving post-Cold War world. He felt it was a necessary update that helped to bring Bond into a modern era, no longer just the sexist, misogynist dinosaur or relic of the Cold War that some critics accused him of being. Though the decision initially met with resistance from die-hard fans, Judi Dench's commanding performance soon silenced any doubts, firmly establishing her as a vital part of the new Bond era. Number 4. GoldenEye was the first James Bond film shot in Russia. GoldenEye marked a major milestone as the first James Bond film to shoot scenes in Russia, specifically in St. Petersburg. However, filming there was far from straightforward. Russian officials insisted that every crew member be accompanied by a bodyguard, which would have greatly increased costs and complicated logistics. Faced with these challenges, the producers had to find a clever workaround. Director Martin Campbell and production designer Peter Lamont devised a practical plan to minimize the number of people on location. Only the essential crew traveled to Russia for the shoot, while the main cast stayed behind in the UK. To recreate the look and feel of St. Petersburg and other Russian settings, Lamont scouted British locations that could convincingly double as iconic Russian landmarks. For example, the courtyard of Somerset House in London was used for the scene where CIA agent Jack Wade, played by Joe Don Baker, repairs his Moscovich car. The Queen's Stand at Epsom Downs Racecourse stood in for Pulkovo Airport, and the Langham Hotel in Portland Place was transformed into the exterior of the Grand Hotel Europe. Other locations included St. Sophia's Greek Cathedral and Brompton Cemetery, which doubled as Our Lady of Smolensk, and the Livery Hall of the Drapers Company, which served as the Russian Defense Council chambers. While part of the thrilling tank chase was filmed on the streets of St. Petersburg, most of the sequence was shot safely in the UK. Lamont and his team built a detailed replica of St. Petersburg streets at Leavesden Studios, allowing them full control over the action scenes. The Russian media, as well as the mayor's wife, expressed concern that the filmmakers were damaging the historic city during the shoot. The army was called in to halt filming temporarily. After a day of negotiations, the filmmakers assured authorities that only the set additions they had made were removed, and that no historic structures had been harmed during production. Number 3. The rented Ferrari used in one of the iconic movie scenes was wrecked. The Bond producers frequently partner with car manufacturers to showcase their latest vehicles in their films, blending high-octane action with clever product placement. However, the striking red Ferrari 355 driven by Xenia Onatopp in her thrilling road duel with Bond's classic Aston Martin DB5 was not part of any long-term sponsorship deal. It was simply rented for the shoot. Veteran stunt coordinator Rémi Julien who worked on every Bond film throughout the 1980s, made modifications to the Ferrari for safety. He installed small nails into the tires to give the car better traction on the winding mountain roads, particularly during the dramatic 360-degree skid when Xenia swerves to avoid an oncoming tractor. Unfortunately, during one take, the Aston Martin clipped the Ferrari, causing minor damage. The Italian sports car required urgent overnight repairs, which came with a hefty bill of $80,000. Actress Famke Janssen performed some of her driving stunts, but her dedication extended beyond the wheel. During the intense sauna fight scene at the Grand Hotel Europe, she asked Pierce Brosnan to run into her at full force. Despite safety padding, the impact was so strong that she broke a rib. Number 2. GoldenEye was the first Bond film to use CGI miniature effects. Supervisor Derek Meddings first joined the Bond team on Live and Let Die, released in 1973, where he engineered the explosions that famously destroyed Dr. Kananga's poppy fields. A master of practical effects, Meddings went on to contribute to every Bond film up to and including For Your Eyes Only, proving himself invaluable to the franchise's visual identity. After a brief absence, he returned for GoldenEye, which marked a major milestone as Pierce Brosnan's debut as James Bond. GoldenEye was also the first Bond film to incorporate computer-generated imagery, but Meddings and his dedicated crew stayed focused on real-world miniatures whenever possible. The ambitious plot demanded a wide range of models, from snow-covered satellite dishes and armored trains to retracting lakes in Cuba and elaborate space-based weapons. These physical creations added a level of realism and texture that CGI alone could not replicate. Meddings later revealed that GoldenEye involved more miniature work than any other film he had ever worked on. His contributions brought tension, excitement, and believability to the action scenes. Tragically, Derek Meddings passed away from colorectal cancer in September of 1995 at the age of 64 during the film's post-production phase. His death marked a significant loss for the Bond family. In recognition of his enduring legacy and the incredible artistry he brought to the screen, GoldenEye, the 17th official Bond film, is lovingly dedicated to his memory. Number 1. Wayne Michaels doubled for Pierce Brosnan. In the iconic jump off the towering dam, GoldenEye kicks off with one of the most iconic openings in Bond history. In the pre-credits sequence, 007 Bungie jumps off a massive dam in Arkhangelsk, in the former Soviet Union, to stealthily infiltrate a chemical weapons facility. The jaw-dropping stunt immediately set the tone for Pierce Brosnan's debut as James Bond. Bold, stylish, and thrilling from the very first frame. In reality, the unforgettable sequence was filmed at the Contra Dam, also known as the Verzasca Dam or the Locarno Dam, located in the Ticino region of southern Switzerland. The dam towers at an astonishing height of 220 meters. British stuntman Wayne Michaels doubled for Brosnan, executing the death-defying leap in a single take. The bungee jump combined danger and elegance, spectacularly capturing the spirit of Bond. Following the film's release in 1995, the dam was leased to a company that offers brave fans the chance to recreate the stunt for themselves, a tradition that still draws daredevils from around the world. In a Sky Movies poll held in 2002, the GoldenEye bungee jump was voted the greatest movie stunt of all time. Wayne Michaels' involvement in the film didn't end at the dam. A veteran of multiple Bond productions, he also made an on-screen appearance. He played the dark-haired French pilot aboard the stealth ship Lafayette, who Xenia Onatopp fatally shoots as part of her plan to hijack the experimental Tiger helicopter. And that's a wrap on 20 weird facts about GoldenEye. From daring stunts and behind-the-scenes twists to surprising casting stories, this film truly had it all. Pierce Brosnan's debut as Bond still thrills fans today. If you thought you knew everything about GoldenEye, I hope some of these facts surprised you. Which one was your favorite, or did you learn something completely new? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and turn on notifications for more movie facts from us.